Do you often feel that you understand English but lose confidence when conversations become fast, complex, or meaningful? Do you have interesting thoughts in your mind while your English still makes it difficult to express them clearly? If so, this video is for you. Today, you'll improve your listening through 3 natural conversations about free will, self-doubt, and body language. Powerful topics that will expand your vocabulary and help you think more deeply in English. Before we begin, subscribe to Miss Nhung for more practical English listening and speaking practice. Now relax, listen for the main ideas, and let's begin.
Ever really stop to think if you're truly in control of your choices? Like, what if everything you do was set in motion way before you even thought about it?
It's a massive question, right? It gets right to the heart of who we think we are.
Exactly. And that's the puzzle we're diving into today, the debate between free will and determinism.
A bit of a philosophical head-scratcher, yeah, but it's way more than just an abstract idea. I mean, this touches on everything from our sense of responsibility to our legal systems.
True.
Our goal here, for you listening, is to get through these really complex ideas without getting bogged down by jargon, look at it from all angles, and really understand how this impacts how we live our lives.
Totally.
And the material we'll be looking at is some fascinating philosophical discussions specifically aimed at advanced English learners, so we'll really get to grips with both the language and the concepts.
Okay, great. So first things first, what are we even talking about when we say free will? What's at the core of it?
Basically, free will is the power to make choices that aren't dictated by, like, fate or things that happened before. It's the ability to act independently, to make decisions that aren't just the inevitable outcome of what came before.
Gotcha.
You know, think about that feeling you get when you choose to, say, call a friend or pick one book over another, that sense of, I decided to do this.
Right.
That's the feeling of free will in action. Our source defines it as the power of acting without the constraint of necessity or fate, the ability to act at one's own discretion.
So it really is that internal sense of, I'm making this happen.
Exactly. And a perfect example of this is in this sentence from the source. She believes people have free will and can change their behavior if they really want to.
Yeah, that makes sense. It emphasizes that ability to choose and the accountability that goes along with it.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's free will. What's the opposite view? What does determinism say?
Well, determinism proposes that all events, even our choices, are actually already set by things that have happened in the past, like a chain of cause and effect stretching back forever.
Wow.
And our actions are just links in that chain. Our source defines it as the doctrine that all events, including human action, are ultimately determined by causes external to the will.
So that feeling we have of making a free choice, maybe it's all just an illusion.
Potentially, yeah. Our incredibly complex brains might be creating that feeling, even if it's not reflecting reality.
So even something as simple as what I had for breakfast wasn't really a choice. It was just a series of events that led to that moment.
That's the idea. Yeah, a bit radical, I know.
It is. Now, I know the source breaks down determinism into different types too.
Right.
What are those?
Right. There are 4 main ones to consider. First up is causal determinism. Basically, every single event, without exception, is a direct result of something that happened before it.
Okay, so one thing leads to another, and there's no space for any actions that weren't triggered by something else.
Exactly. It's almost like those dominoes lined up, you knock one over, and the rest fall in a predictable way.
Got it.
Of course, in the real world, it's much more complicated than dominoes. There are feedback loops and things that emerge from the interactions, but the core idea is the same.
Right. That makes sense. What's next?
Then there's theological determinism, which basically says that God is the ultimate cause of everything. So all events, including our choices, are determined by God's will.
So in that view, our life path isn't really up to us. It's already been laid out.
Exactly. It's part of a divine plan. Then we have biological determinism. This is all about our physical makeup, our genes, and biology being the main drivers of our behavior.
Okay, so like our genetics can make us more likely to behave in certain ways. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's the basic idea. Like you might hear about genetic links to specific personality traits or tendencies.
Yeah, for sure. And the last one?
That's psychological determinism. So this one focuses on our mental states, past experiences as the key factors that shape our actions. You know, our thoughts, feelings, our upbringing, all of it.
So it's saying that our past pretty much dictates the choices we made today.
Yeah, essentially that our experiences mold us into who we are, and that dictates how we act.
Okay, so we have all these different flavors of determinism, each suggesting that maybe, just maybe, our sense of freedom isn't what it seems.
Right.
And the source also lays out some key vocab here that's important for this discussion.
Yeah, getting a handle on these terms is going to be super helpful as we navigate this whole free will versus determinism debate.
Absolutely. What's the first one?
So first up is autonomy. It's basically independence, freedom, particularly freedom of the will.
So if you lean towards believing in free will, you probably value personal autonomy in making decisions.
Precisely. Like in this example, the therapist encouraged personal autonomy in decision-making.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's that feeling of being self-governing, being the ultimate decider in your own choices.
Right. Autonomy. What's next?
Next up is accountability. This one's all about taking responsibility for your actions.
And that ties directly to free will, right? If we genuinely choose our actions, then we should be held accountable for what we do.
Exactly. It's like this example. In a world with free will, accountability is crucial.
Yeah, if our actions are all predetermined, holding someone accountable doesn't make much sense anymore.
That's a really key point. And then we have inevitability, which is basically the state of something being unavoidable.
So the opposite of being able to make a choice. Like it was going to happen no matter what.
Exactly. This example really illustrates that deterministic mindset. He saw failure as an inevitability, not a choice.
Yeah, I see that. It's like giving up control, accepting something was bound to happen. What's next?
All right, so then we have predetermined. This just means decided in advance. Think of it like this example. Some people think our lives are predetermined by fate.
That's a bit of a heavy thought. Like we're just acting out a script that was already written for us.
Yeah. Some people find that idea comforting, others find it unsettling. Then we have conscious deliberation. This is basically thoughtful, intentional decision-making.
So really thinking through your options, considering consequences, we associate that with free will, right?
Absolutely. It definitely feels like we're exercising our free will when we're weighing up options and thinking carefully about a decision. Like in this example, moral choices often require conscious deliberation.
Makes sense. When you're really engaged in that process, the idea that it was all predetermined just feels strange.
For sure. Closely related to that is moral responsibility, which is basically the duty to do what's right and be accountable for your actions.
Which brings us back to the big question.
Yeah.
If we don't have free will, can we really be morally responsible?
Exactly. The source poses this thought. Without free will, can we truly have moral responsibility? And it really does cut to the core of how we view ethics and justice.
Right. If our actions are predetermined, it changes everything about how we think about right and wrong.
Then we have agency, the capacity to act independently, to make your own choices.
So that's the feeling that I am in control, that my choices have real impact.
Exactly. But determinism challenges the idea of human agency, as our source points out. So it's a direct conflict between the two concepts.
Yeah, agency is that sense of being an active participant in shaping your own life, not just passively along for the ride.
Precisely. And finally, we have compatibilism, the idea that free will and determinism can actually both exist.
Oh, so a kind of middle ground.
Exactly. It's like trying to build a bridge between these two seemingly opposite ideas. The source describes it like this. Compatibilism tries to reconcile freedom with causality.
Okay, compatibilism. We'll need to explore that more. So now we have a pretty good grasp of the basic concept and vocab, right?
I think so, yeah.
What's next?
Well, the source gets into some really interesting ways of illustrating this whole tension between free will and determinism.
Cool. How do they do that?
One way is through a little dialogue set in a philosophical cafe. There's Anna, who's a big believer in free will, and Mark, who's a bit more skeptical. Anna asks Mark straight out, "Do you believe people truly have free will?"
Okay, to the point.
And Mark responds with, "I'm not sure. It feels like I choose, but what if my choices are just illusions created by my brain's chemistry?"
Ooh. Getting right to the heart of it. It's that inner feeling of choice versus the idea that our brains are just super complex machines following physical laws.
Exactly. And then Anna, she brings up a really important point. She asks how we can hold criminals accountable if they don't have free will.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And Mark's response is really interesting. He suggests we should think about punishment as a way to prevent future harm to society rather than as a moral judgment for something they chose to do wrong.
So shifting the focus from punishment to prevention.
Yeah, a more utilitarian view of punishment.
That does change things, yeah. If people aren't really free agents, the whole idea of punishment as retribution starts to break down.
Exactly. But then Anna expresses this really strong personal belief in free will. I believe in free will because I feel responsible for my actions, she says.
I feel that powerful intuition that we are the authors of our choices. It's a hard feeling to shake off.
It is. And the source then offers up some questions for you, the listener, to think about.
Great. Like what?
Well, first, it asks what Mark might mean by illusions created by my brain's chemistry. What do you make of that?
It makes you think about that materialist view of consciousness, where our thoughts and feelings are ultimately just physical processes happening in the brain.
Right. So maybe that feeling of making a decision is just a story our brain creates after the fact.
Whoa.
Then there's this other question. Do you agree that punishment can be more about prevention than about retribution?
Yeah, that forces you to really think about the purpose of our justice system. If we shift away from the idea that people freely choose to commit crimes, how does that change things?
It's huge, right?
Absolutely.
And finally, it asks how this whole conversation reflects that tension between responsibility and causality, which is the heart of the free will, versus determinism debate.
It really highlights how our beliefs about free will impact how we think about accountability and the reasons behind our actions.
For sure. Then the source goes on to present a couple of thought experiments to try and shed more light on these concepts.
Oh yeah, I love those. What's the first one?
It's called the domino effect, a classic.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one.
It's a really clear analogy for causal determinism. So imagine a long line of dominoes, and you push the first one over, it knocks over the next one, and the next, and so on, in a predictable chain reaction.
Right.
The question is, if we're essentially like dominoes, with each action being a predictable result of the one before it, can we really make a free decision?
I mean, it does paint a pretty stark picture, right? Like,
Yeah.
if every action is just a predictable outcome of what came before, where's the freedom in that? It feels like
Yeah.
we're just programmed to fall in a certain way.
Right. It really underscores that idea of a purely mechanical universe where everything is connected in this rigid chain of cause and effect, leaving seemingly no room for genuine free will.
Okay, I see that.
What about the second thought experiment? Have you heard of the neuroscience debate?
Can't say I have. Fill me in.
Well, this one's particularly interesting because it brings in some modern science. There have been studies that show brain activity related to a decision can be detected even before we're consciously aware of making that decision.
No way. So our brains are making decisions before we even realize it.
That's what the research seems to suggest, yeah. So the big question is, if our brains are deciding before we consciously think, I'm going to do this, are we really the ones making the choice?
That's crazy. It's like our brains are running on autopilot and our conscious mind is just catching up later and thinking it made the call.
It does kind of feel that way, right? And it really challenges that feeling of being in control.
Cool.
And it's because of research like this that the source says the notion of free will is under intense scrutiny, especially since it suggests that our sense of agency might be retroactively constructed.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack. First, notion.
Yeah, so by notion, the source just means an idea or belief. It gives this example. The notion of justice varies from culture to culture. So in our case, the notion of free will is that generally accepted idea that we do in fact have free will.
Makes sense. So what about under intense scrutiny?
That means that it's being looked at closely and critically. Like, his actions were under intense scrutiny after the scandal.
So free will is no longer just a given. People are really questioning it.
Yeah, exactly. And this intense scrutiny is happening in the wake of all this new scientific research.
Right. In the wake of means as a result of, right? Like in the wake of the new laws, companies change their policy.
Exactly. Then we have sense of agency, which is that feeling of being in control of your actions. Like meditation can help restore your sense of agency.
Right. That feeling that I am the one making things happen.
Yes, that's it. And retroactively constructed, the last part, means that it's created after the fact.
So it's like our brains might actually be making the decision first. Then our conscious mind creates this feeling of, I made that choice afterwards.
Exactly. Like the example, the story was retroactively constructed to make sense of random events. Pretty mind-blowing, right?
Totally. It really does challenge everything we think we know about making choices. But I know the source also lays out some arguments in favor of free will despite all this. What are those?
Yeah, so first there's the idea of moral accountability. If we don't really have free will, how can we say someone deserves blame or praise for their actions?
Right. It seems like the whole idea of morality rests on the assumption that people could have chosen to act differently.
Exactly. Then there's the argument of intuition and experience. I mean, we all have that really strong feeling of being free, of making choices.
Yeah, I get that. Even with all the deterministic arguments, it's hard to shake that feeling. What else?
Well, there's the fact that our entire legal system is basically built on the idea of free will.
Oh, that's a huge one. Our whole justice system, guilt, innocence, punishment, it all seems to hinge on this idea of free choice.
Exactly. But of course, there are strong arguments for determinism, too. What do you think some of those might be?
Let's see. Well, there's that basic principle in science. Every event has a cause.
Right, science and causality. Determinists would argue that our thoughts and actions aren't exempt from that. They have causes too, even if they're complex.
Yeah, it makes sense. While quantum physics might show randomness at a very small scale, in our everyday lives, it seems like everything is caused by something.
That's the deterministic view in a nutshell. And then there's the argument based on predictability of behavior.
Oh yeah, like how psychology and data analysis can often predict how people will act.
Exactly. Determinists point to that and say, see, our actions aren't completely free after all.
It's true. Look at how advertisers try to predict what we'll buy, or how social media algorithms try to guess what content we'll like. There are definitely patterns there.
There are, for sure. And then the last major argument for determinism is based on biological constraints. You know, our genes and upbringing, they undeniably shape our preferences and tendencies.
Right. Our genes might make us more likely to have certain personality traits, and our childhood experiences definitely influence our values and beliefs. It all affects how we make decisions.
Exactly. So determinists argue that all these factors severely limit the scope for truly free will.
Yeah, it starts to feel like the space for pure, unconstrained choice is shrinking. But wait, didn't we mention compatibilism before? How does that fit into all this?
Oh, right. Compatibilism is where things get really interesting. It's a philosophical attempt to say that free will and determinism can actually coexist.
Really? How does that even work?
Well, compatibilists propose that even if our actions are caused by previous events, they can still be considered free if they align with our desires, intentions, and values, as long as there's no external force making us do them.
Okay, so if I choose to have coffee in the morning because I like the taste and the caffeine boost, that's a free choice, even if my love of coffee came from my upbringing.
Exactly. It's about whether you're acting in accordance with your own internal motivations, not being forced by something external.
So even if those internal motivations have roots in past events, the choice is still considered free in that moment?
That's the essence of compatibilism, yeah. It's a really clever attempt to reconcile these two big ideas.
I like it. Now, the source also gives some idiomatic expressions that are relevant to all this, just to make it even more engaging.
Oh yeah, these are common phrases that pop up a lot when discussing these concepts.
What are some of them?
Well, first up is of one's own accord. It just means voluntarily, without being pressured.
Okay, so emphasizing that the action truly came from the person's own will.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he left the company of his own accord.
What's another one?
We have out of your hands. So that means something's beyond your control, you can't influence it.
I get that. Like, some things are simply out of your hands.
Yep, it points to those limits on our agency that determinism often emphasizes. Then there's call the shots. That means to be in control, making the decisions.
Oh yeah, that connects to that feeling of agency we talked about earlier. Like, she likes to call the shots in every project.
Exactly. It's about having the power to choose. Then we have be hardwired to. That means to be naturally inclined to do something because of your biology or psychology.
Right, so like, humans are hardwired to seek patterns. That points towards those innate behaviors that might not be a matter of choice.
Right, that's a good example. And last but not least, there's put yourself in someone's shoes.
Oh yeah. That means to imagine what it would be like to be in someone else's situation.
Right. The example is, to understand justice, put yourself in the victim's shoes. So it's about empathy, understanding different perspectives, which is super important for these big moral questions we've been talking about.
Absolutely. Now, I know the source goes on to provide a conversation scenario to put all this into practice. What is that all about?
Right. It's a university debate titled, Are We Truly Free? With two students arguing opposing sides.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Student A, who's arguing for free will, starts by saying, I believe we have agency. Even if my environment influences me, I make the final call.
Yeah, it's about that feeling of having the ultimate decision-making power, even with all the external factors influencing you.
Yeah, exactly. And then student B, arguing for determinism, counters that, saying that final call may feel free, but it could just be your neurons firing in a certain way, controlled by your genes and everything that's happened to you.
So again, that idea that our brains are making the choices based on pre-existing conditions.
Exactly. But then student A brings up a really interesting point, asking how people can change so dramatically after a trauma or deep reflection if everything is determined.
Right. That idea of personal transformation and breaking free from old patterns really does seem to suggest some degree of freedom.
It does. But of course, student B has a deterministic explanation for that too. They say, even those changes have causes the trauma, the reflection, they trigger new things in the brain, but it's still all cause and effect.
So even the act of choosing to change is itself a determined outcome.
Yep, pretty consistent, right?
Very much so.
And then to get you, the listener, thinking, the source provides some questions for you to consider.
Love those. What are they?
The first one is pretty simple. Whose argument did you find more convincing, student A or student B?
That's a good one. It really makes you think critically about the arguments and decide which one resonates more with you.
Exactly. Then it asks, if determinism is true, can people really change?
Yeah, that's deep. If we're just puppets of causality, does self-improvement even make sense?
Right. It raises questions about the very meaning of change and growth.
It does. What's the last question?
It asks you to think about the role of society in shaping our views on freedom and determinism.
Oh, that's a good one. Our upbringing, the laws, our culture, they all probably influence how we think about these big questions.
Absolutely. So there we have it, a really deep dive into the core concepts of free will and determinism. We've gone through arguments, looked at thought experiments, and even dug into the language we use to talk about all of this.
It's been fascinating, really. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that even if we don't arrive at any definitive answers, engaging with this debate helps us think more clearly and critically about our choices and the things that might be influencing them.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about being more aware of the complexity of our own actions and decisions.
So here's a final thought for you all out there listening. Think about a recent decision you made, anything, big or small. Did it feel completely free in the moment? Now, thinking about all we've discussed, what factors, conscious or unconscious, might have played a part in that choice? Could that feeling of freedom itself be part of a bigger, determined sequence of events? Or was there truly some element of real autonomy there?
It's a question that's been debated for centuries, and your own reflections on it are a valuable part of that ongoing conversation. Keep thinking, keep exploring, and maybe you'll come to your own conclusions.
Great advice. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening, until next time, keep questioning, keep thinking, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.
All right, welcome in everyone to another deep dive. You know, we've been talking a lot about self-doubt when learning English, something I know a lot of us can relate to.
Definitely. It's a really common feeling.
So we wanted to dig deeper into this for you guys, not just about understanding why it happens, but actually figuring out what we can do about it. Some really solid steps you can take to start building more confidence in your English.
Exactly. So we're not just going to sit here and offer sympathy. What we want to do is give you some tools, some real strategies. So we'll be looking at the psychology behind it, some of the unique challenges that English learners face, and probably most important part, how you can actually change the way you think about this whole thing. We want to show you a way forward, not just cope with the self-doubt, but really break out of it.
So let's get into this feeling itself, that self-doubt. It's that kind of uncertainty, that feeling you get when you're like, am I really good enough at English? And the research that you shared with me really pointed to this coming from both, kind of like inside us and from outside us. What can you tell us about that?
It's actually really fascinating when you look internally, inside yourself. There's this contrast that I think a lot of learners experience. In your native language, you can express all sorts of complex thoughts. You have all these nuances, right? But when it comes to English, maybe the vocabulary just isn't there yet, or you just haven't quite figured out how to structure those sentences to really capture what you want to say.
Yeah.
And that gap can be super frustrating.
Oh, no.
You have this picture in your mind, this amazing idea, and then when you try to put it into English, it comes out kind of blurry. It's like you only have a few crayons to work with instead of this whole, box of colored pencils.
Right, right.
So the big takeaway here is to focus on the message, the core of what you want to say, even if the English isn't totally perfect.
That's a great way to put it. Like not having all the right colors, but still getting the message across.
Exactly. And then, shifting to those external factors, I think comparison plays a huge role.
Yeah.
You're constantly seeing native English speakers who just seem to flow effortlessly.
Effortlessly.
Or other learners who are further along than you.
Right.
And it's natural to compare yourself, and feel like you're not measuring up.
Totally.
Then there's that fear of making mistakes, of being judged.
Absolutely.
Like, especially when you're speaking in a group or trying to talk to a native speaker.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's so important to remember that learning a language is like putting yourself out there. It's not just grammar rules. It's getting emotional, getting social.
It is. It's definitely vulnerable.
Yeah.
And, one thing that came up a lot in the research you sent was the pressure that comes with English being such a global language.
Right.
I mean, it's everywhere, right? For work, school, travel. And so there's this expectation to reach a certain level, which can make you feel like you're not good enough if you're not progressing as fast as you want, or if you keep making mistakes.
Totally.
But one thing that really stood out to me in the research was that self-doubt isn't like this permanent part of you. It doesn't mean you can't do it.
Right.
They actually talk about it as a habit.
Okay.
Like something that your mind has learned to do over time, which actually means you can unlearn it, and start thinking in ways that actually help you.
Yeah. So that means there's hope, which is really encouraging to hear.
It is. It is. And I think any kind of positive action, any step you take in the right direction can start to disrupt that habit.
That makes sense. So, all right, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of self-doubt. What are some of the specific things that make learning English so hard? What makes this different from learning, say, a new skill or a new app or something like that?
Yeah. English is a beautiful language, but it definitely has its quirks. And those quirks can be a huge source of frustration.
Yeah.
Like, for example, those irregular verbs. I mean, why are they so irregular? They just don't seem to follow any logic.
Right.
And phrasal verbs, oh man, those are another one.
Yeah, pick up, give in, all those.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like taking a simple verb and then adding a preposition to it, and suddenly it means something totally different. So for those, what can really help is to focus on the main verb first, right? And then think about what direction the preposition is pointing you in. So with pick up, you're taking something and bringing it up, right?
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
And give in, you're surrendering, right?
Makes sense.
So breaking it down like that can help you grasp the general meaning, even if it feels kind of nonsensical at first.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the wonderful world of English pronunciation. I'm sure you've come across words like through, though, and tough.
Absolutely.
They look pretty much the same, but they sound so different.
Totally different, yeah.
That inconsistency can be really confusing and demoralizing for learners.
For sure.
It makes you feel like you're constantly guessing.
Yeah.
One strategy that can help with this is looking into minimal pairs.
Minimal pairs, okay.
So those are words that differ by just one sound. Like, for example, ship and sheep, Focusing on those subtle differences can really improve your pronunciation over time.
Yeah, and that can make a huge difference in being understood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But beyond just the language itself, I think there's this cultural aspect too.
Right, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, we're bombarded with English media, movies, TV, music, everything.
Yeah.
And English is often associated with success and being sophisticated.
It's a powerful language.
It is. And it can lead to learners feeling like they have to achieve this, perfect native-like accent to be successful.
That's like you're chasing this impossible standard.
Exactly. And that can be a recipe for self-doubt.
Okay, so we've got the language itself, the cultural pressure, and then on top of that, there are the practical challenges that learners face every day.
Yeah, it's one thing to understand the rules, but it's another to actually use the language confidently in real life.
Right.
And the sources you shared really highlighted some key practical challenges.
What were some of those?
So lack of opportunities to practice. If you're not living in an English-speaking country, it can be really hard to find people to talk to.
Yeah, for sure.
And even if you can find people, then there's the fear of making mistakes in front of them, that fear of looking foolish or sounding stupid, which can be really paralyzing.
Absolutely.
And then some learners, and I think this is a personality thing, They strive for perfection from the get-go.
Yeah.
Which is unrealistic and can be super demotivating. And then, of course, we're constantly exposed to fluent English speakers on TV and online. It's hard not to compare yourself and feel like you're not good enough.
Right. It can be really discouraging.
It can. And what happens is you start avoiding practice because you're scared of making mistakes. And then, of course, because you're not practicing, you're not improving as much, which fuels that self-doubt even more. It becomes this vicious cycle.
A downward spiral.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so important to take those steps to change your mindset and to start taking action, to break out of that loop.
Okay, let's talk about some of those actionable steps. So the first one that really jumped out at me was reframing mistakes.
Yeah.
This seems so crucial.
It is. It's really about shifting your perspective. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures, see them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Okay.
One of your sources had a great analogy. They talked about thinking of yourself as a scientist conducting experiments.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. Like if a scientist's experiment doesn't work out, they don't just give up. They analyze what happened. They gather data. They adjust their approach for next time.
They learn from it.
Exactly. And that's what we need to do with English. Every time you make a mistake, it's giving you valuable information about the language.
So instead of feeling embarrassed when someone corrects you, you're actually gathering data.
Exactly. There's this great example in one of the sources about someone ordering a coffee hot, and the waiter goes, "A hot coffee."
Right.
And instead of being embarrassed, that person now understands that adjectives usually come before nouns in English. So it becomes this learning experience instead of a moment of shame.
It's a total reframing of that interaction.
It is. It really tucks away the sting.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, the less power those mistakes have to make you feel bad.
Okay, that makes sense. So step number 2 is setting realistic goals and celebrating those small wins.
Yes. Love this one. This is all about building positive momentum. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by this huge goal of speaking English fluently, which can seem impossible, you break it down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Yeah. It's like you're climbing a mountain, right?
Exactly.
You got to focus on each step.
Exactly.
You can't just keep looking at the top. It's too daunting.
Exactly. The research actually pointed out that these vague goals, like, I want to speak English fluently, can actually make self-doubt worse, because there's no clear way to measure your progress.
It's like you're just wandering around with no map.
Yeah.
No destination.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would be a more realistic goal?
So instead, think about things like, okay, this week, I'm going to learn 10 new words and actually use them in conversations. Or I'm going to watch a short English video without subtitles and see how much I understand.
Okay.
Or even, I'm going to confidently greet someone in English.
Right. Those are achievable.
Exactly. And when you achieve them, you celebrate. Even if it's a small win, you acknowledge it. You tell yourself, good job, I did it.
Right.
And even a small reward, like, a little treat or something, can really reinforce that feeling of success. It tells your brain, hey, we're making progress here.
I love this. It's like giving yourself a little pat on the back.
Exactly. And one of the sources actually suggested picking one tiny English goal for the day, Maybe it's listening to this entire deep dive or just saying one sentence out loud and then taking a moment to appreciate that you did it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's about building that sense of accomplishment step by step.
Okay, step number 3.
Yeah.
And this is a big one for a lot of learners. Practicing speaking, even when you're scared.
Yes, the dreaded speaking practice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely understandable.
It is.
You're worried about your accent, you're worried about grammar mistakes, you're worried about just blanking out and not finding the right words.
Right.
But the research was very clear on this. The best way to overcome that fear is to just do it.
Practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be this big, scary thing, You can start small in low-pressure situations. Like one of the other suggestions was talking to yourself in English.
Talking to yourself.
Yeah, just describe what you're doing throughout the day.
That's interesting.
It's a safe space to practice, right? No one's judging you.
Right.
And you get used to hearing yourself speak English. Another idea was recording yourself.
Okay.
Now, I know that can feel awkward.
Yeah.
But when you listen back, you can actually learn a lot.
About how you sound. Yeah.
Yeah. And the research highlighted, make sure to focus on what you did well, not just on the mistakes. And then, of course, there are language exchange partners.
Okay, yeah, like finding someone to practice with.
Exactly. And there are apps like Tandem or Hello Talk that can connect you with native speakers who are learning your language.
Oh, that's cool.
So you both get to practice. And it's a very supportive environment, right? You're both learners, you're both making mistakes.
So it's less intimidating than trying to talk to like a native speaker who's, already fluent.
Exactly. And, one thing that the research really emphasized, especially in the beginning, don't worry about perfection. Native speakers appreciate the effort you're making.
Right. They don't expect you to sound perfect.
Exactly. They're usually very understanding.
All right. Step number 4 is surrounding yourself with positive input.
Yeah. This is about creating a positive environment for yourself. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with information, you need to be mindful about what you're exposing yourself to.
Makes sense.
So instead of watching, super advanced English content and comparing yourself to those speakers, find content that's more accessible for your level.
Okay, like what kind of stuff?
Things like children's TV shows, they use simpler language,
Right.
slower speech.
Clear pronunciation, yeah.
Exactly.
Or even like sitcoms with subtitles.
Sitcoms are great, yeah, especially the ones that are really popular because you can find them translated in so many languages. So if you get lost, you can always go back and check what they said in your native language.
Right. That's a great tip.
And then social media can actually be really helpful here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Follow English learners who are inspiring, who are sharing their journeys, their struggles, their successes. It creates this sense of community.
You realize you're not alone.
Exactly. You're all in this together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And another thing that came up a lot in the research was positive affirmations.
Okay, those are those positive statements you say to yourself.
Exactly. Things like, I'm getting better at English every day, or my effort is more important than my mistakes.
Yeah.
And it sounds kind of cheesy, but actually saying them out loud can really help.
Really?
Yeah, because you're actively changing that internal dialogue from negative to positive.
It's like you're training your mind to focus on the good stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, step number 5 is mastering imperfect communication. I really love this one because it takes so much pressure off.
Yeah, it's about letting go of that need to be perfect before you even open your mouth.
Right.
So many learners get stuck in this mindset of I need to be fluent before I can actually use English.
Right.
But the research emphasized that the goal of language is to connect with other people, not to be grammatically flawless.
Yeah.
Native English speakers understand that.
They get it.
They're not expecting perfection. And they can usually understand what you mean, even if you make some mistakes.
Right. So it's about focusing on getting your message across, not on saying it perfectly.
Exactly. And one really cool strategy that came up was to use simpler words and even gestures if you get stuck. Instead of trying to remember the word umbrella, you could say thing for rain and point upwards.
Yeah, that totally works.
It does. And every time you communicate successfully, even if it's imperfect, it builds your confidence. You realize you don't have to be perfect to connect with people.
So freeing.
It is. It really takes the pressure off.
Okay, step number 6 is tracking your progress.
Yes, this is a really good one for combating those feelings of being stuck,
Like you're not moving forward.
Yeah. Because self-doubt can make you forget how far you've actually come.
Right. You only focus on what you haven't achieved yet.
Exactly. So keeping a record of your learning journey can really help.
What kind of things should learners be tracking?
Some ideas that came up were keeping a list of new words you learn each week.
Okay.
Maybe record yourself speaking once a month and then listen back later to hear how you've improved.
Oh, I like that. You can actually hear the progress.
You can. It's really motivating.
That's cool.
And, even just writing down moments when you had a new understanding, maybe you finally understood a joke in English or you followed a conversation that you wouldn't have been able to before.
It's like keeping a journal of those little victories.
It is. And those little victories add up,
Yeah.
And seeing them written down can really boost your confidence.
One of the examples that really stood out to me was going from struggling to order food to being able to say, "Can I have a burger, please?" with confidence.
Exactly. It's something we take for granted once we can do it.
Right.
But it's a huge step.
Huge step, yeah. Okay, step number 7 is about tackling that negative self-talk and replacing it with more positive habits.
Yes, because we all have that inner critic, right? But for learners dealing with self-doubt, that critic can be especially harsh.
Yeah, it's that voice telling you you're not good enough or you'll never sound natural.
Yeah, or even, why bother? I should just give up.
Right, but those are just thoughts, right? They're not necessarily true.
Exactly. And the research emphasized that those negative thoughts are actually habits, They're like well-worn paths in your brain.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
So to change those thoughts, you have to actively create new paths, more positive ones.
Okay, so how do we do that?
So the research gave some great examples of flipping those negative thoughts.
Like turning them around.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of thinking, I'm so bad at this, you consciously think, I'm learning, and that's what matters. Instead of, I'll never sound natural, you think, my accent is part of who I am, and I'm improving my communication every day.
Yeah.
And when you catch yourself thinking, why am I even trying? You can counter that with, I'm trying because I want to grow. I want to connect with people.
Right. And saying those positive thoughts out loud can really make a difference, right?
It does. It makes them more real.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with actually practicing your English, it creates this positive feedback loop.
Right. You're taking action and you're encouraging yourself at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay. And finally, step number 8 is embracing your identity as an English learner.
Yeah. This is about acceptance,
Acceptance of where you are on the journey.
Exactly. It's about letting go of this idea that you have to become someone else to speak English well.
Right.
Your accent, your unique way of expressing yourself, those are all part of who you are. They're
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah.
And English belongs to everyone who speaks it.
Right. It's a global language.
It is. You mentioned some inspiring examples of successful non-native English speakers earlier.
Like Shakira, Jackie Chan, Penelope Cruz, people like that.
Exactly. They haven't erased their accents. Their English is part of their identity.
Yeah. And people admire them for it.
They do.
Yeah.
And it's about shifting your perspective from I'm not good enough to I'm a proud learner. Every effort you make is something to be proud of.
It's a mindset shift from feeling inadequate to feeling empowered.
Exactly.
Okay, so beyond these mindset shifts, we also talked about some practical exercises that learners can do every day to build confidence. Can you remind us of some of those?
Yeah, these are all about taking action, doing something every day to strengthen that self-belief muscle.
Right.
So one was the mirror challenge. Just spend 1 minute every day talking to yourself in English.
Just looking in the mirror and talking.
Yep. It gets you comfortable with hearing your own voice in English.
Okay.
Another one was word of the day. You learn one new word each day and then try to use it in 5 different sentences, spoken or written.
That's a good one. It helps you actually remember the word.
It does. And then there's shadowing, which is where you listen to a short English audio or video and repeat phrases, trying to mimic the intonation and the rhythm.
Oh, yeah.
That's really good for pronunciation and fluency.
Okay. And then role playing, act out common situations like ordering food or asking for directions.
That's a good way to practice for a real life situation.
It is.
Yeah.
And finally, keep a gratitude list. Every day, write down 3 things you're grateful for in your English learning journey.
That's a great idea.
It helps you focus on the positive.
Right. Focus on what you're achieving.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of positive steps. But the research also acknowledged that overcoming self-doubt isn't always a smooth, linear process.
Yeah.
There are going to be setbacks, times when that doubt creeps back in. What should learners do when that happens?
It's important to remember that setbacks are normal.
Right.
They're part of the process of breaking any habit. So when that happens, don't beat yourself up.
Right.
Instead, the research suggests asking yourself these questions.
Okay.
What went well in that situation, even if it was something small?
Okay.
What can I learn from this experience?
Okay.
And what's one small step I can take to move forward from here? So you're focusing on solutions, not on the problem.
Exactly. There was a good example in the research about someone who froze up during an English conversation.
Right.
But then they realized, hey, at least I started the conversation. That's a win in itself.
Yeah.
And maybe they learned that they need to work on a certain phrase or grammar point.
Right. So it becomes a learning opportunity.
Exactly. Setbacks are often just signs that you're pushing yourself,
You're stepping outside your comfort zone.
Exactly.
So as we start wrapping up here, I want to ask, what's the long-term reward for all this effort? What happens if you keep working on overcoming self-doubt and building confidence?
The research painted a really hopeful picture of what's possible. Imagine having conversations in English without constantly second-guessing yourself.
Yeah.
Understanding jokes, cultural references, those subtle things.
Right.
Feeling confident, writing emails, giving presentations.
Right. And enjoying English movies and music.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
And maybe even starting to think or dream in English. And while you might still have moments of self-doubt, they won't control you the way they used to.
That's amazing. It sounds like a completely different experience of using English.
It is. And the research really emphasized that this is achievable, by taking those small, consistent steps we talked about, reframing mistakes, setting realistic goals, practicing speaking, and believing in yourself.
So it's not just about learning English, it's about personal growth.
Exactly. It's about building resilience, courage, and a stronger sense of self.
So the big takeaway for everyone listening is self-doubt is a habit, and habits can be broken.
Yes, and confidence is something you can build.
And every time you speak, write, or listen in English, you're taking a step in that direction.
You are. It's a journey, not a quick fix. But the progress is definitely there if you stick with it.
So wherever you are right now, just take a moment to acknowledge yourself, Tell yourself, I'm an English learner and I'm enough.
Yes, you are.
And then commit to one small step today. Maybe it's reading a paragraph in English, saying a new word out loud, or just appreciating how far you've come. Because with those small actions and that belief in yourself, you really can overcome that self-doubt. If you can learn to overcome self-doubt in one area of your life, like learning English, imagine what else you could achieve. What other limitations can you break free from? It's all about challenging those negative thoughts and stepping into your full potential.
Beautifully said.
Ever wish you could just skip the small talk
Yeah.
and know what someone was really thinking? Not like actual mind reading, but something almost as cool.
Yeah.
Unlocking that secret code, figuring out body language.
I like that. Like a superpower.
Yeah. And it's less about, just intuition or something.
Right.
The sources you sent, they make it clear. It's way more about science than you'd think. There are actual cues, things you can learn to recognize.
It's about decoding those silent signals, right? The ones we're all sending out without even realizing it half the time.
Exactly. And that's our mission today, to, give you the tools, to become a body language decoder yourself. We're going to cover a ton: faces, personal space, you name it. Did you know there's a thing called micro expressions? It's crazy the stuff you can pick up on if you know what you're looking for. Imagine, in a meeting or out with friends.
Yeah, even just watching the news.
Oh, totally. You start seeing things in a whole new light, like what's really going on.
It adds a whole other dimension to your understanding, for sure.
Okay, so then why even bother? Why is body language such a big deal?
Well, according to the research, a lot of what we communicate doesn't actually come from the words we say.
Really?
Yeah, depending on the situation, you're looking at something like 70 to even 93% that's nonverbal.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, does that hold up, even if it's, just straightforward information, no emotions or anything?
It's a good question. And the exact numbers, they can definitely shift around depending on the study and what kind of communication we're talking about. If it's a super technical briefing or something, maybe words matter more.
Right.
But the big idea that nonverbal cues are crucial, especially when you've got emotions involved, that seems pretty solid. Think about it if you want to know if someone's being sincere.
You're going to watch their face, listen to their tone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's this anthropologist, Ray Birdwhistle. He did a lot of work on kinesics.
That's the study of
body movement, gestures, all that. And he basically argued that those signals often carry more weight than the actual spoken language.
Whoa, so it's like we're having two conversations at once, one with words, and then this whole other one going on silently.
Pretty much. And even though Albert Mehrabian's, that 738-55 rule,
Yeah, I've heard of that.
it's really specific to how we understand feelings, attitudes, but it does illustrate the point, how we say something, the body language that goes with it, that often overpowers the words themselves, especially when it comes to emotions. Yeah.
So the takeaway is, even if the exact percentages change, what we don't say is still saying a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, zooming out a bit, evolutionarily speaking, how do we even get to this point where we're communicating without words?
Well, think about it. Way before we had language as we know it, body language was crucial for survival. For our ancestors, it was how they spotted danger, showed dominance, formed bonds, all that.
You see someone tense up, their face changes, you know something's wrong.
Instantaneously, yeah. It's like a primal response built right in.
Fascinating. So it's universal then, this body language.
Yeah. To a point, yes. There are some expressions, emotions that seem to be hardwired cross-culturally, but culture definitely plays a role too in how things are expressed and understood. That's something we'll definitely get into more later.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's dive into the nitty-gritty. What are the main things we should be looking at when we're trying to, decipher someone's body language?
All right, so the first thing is, it's not about cherry picking, okay? One gesture in isolation Might not mean much. You need to look for patterns, clusters of cues that back each other up. So we can start with facial expressions.
Ah, yes. The good old window to the soul.
Right. There's a reason that phrase is so popular. There's this psychologist, Paul Ekman. He did this amazing research. Identified 7 universal emotions. They show up in facial expressions the same way, no matter where you go in the world.
Like?
Happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, fear, disgust, and contempt.
Interesting. So is it just about, like, is someone smiling or not? Or is there more to it?
It's definitely more nuanced than that. So take a genuine smile, for example. We call it a Duchenne smile. And what happens is it's not just the corners of your mouth turning up.
Right.
It also involves the muscles around your eyes, those crow's feet wrinkles,
I see. So there's a difference between like a real smile and a fake one.
Exactly. And they've actually done studies using fancy tech that can measure the muscle activity so you can tell the difference.
Wow, that's amazing. So what else should we be looking for face-wise?
Well, a furrowed brow can mean a few things. Confusion, worry, anger even. Pursed lips can signal disapproval or tension, even just deep concentration sometimes. Tight jaw, that's often a sign of stress, holding back anger. And then there are micro-expressions.
Those sound intense. What are they exactly?
They're these super fast expressions, like flashes, that happen for just a fraction of a second. They often reveal a hidden emotion before the person can control their face.
Whoa. So if you can spot them.
You're getting a glimpse of their true feelings. But it definitely takes practice.
Okay, moving down from the face to the eyes. They say the eyes are the most expressive part of the face.
Oh, for sure. Direct eye contact. That can be a sign of engagement, feeling confident, or sometimes even aggression, dominance, depending on the situation.
Right. And then if someone's avoiding eye contact, that usually means
discomfort, maybe shyness, or possibly even that they're trying to deceive you, although you always got to factor in cultural norms there.
Oh yeah, that's important.
What's really fascinating to me is how pupils react.
Pupils.
Yeah. So when something gets us excited or interested, good or bad excitement, our pupils actually get bigger. It's an automatic response tied to our emotions. And then rapid blinking. That can show nervousness or that someone's mind is racing. Steady gaze, on the other hand, that might mean they're really focused or even trying to intimidate you, depending.
So much information packed into just the eyes. Now, what about how we hold our whole body, posture?
Posture is a big one. Think about someone standing tall, shoulders relaxed, chest open.
They seem confident, approachable.
Right. That's an open posture. Now, flip that slumped shoulders, arms crossed tight across the chest.
Closed off.
Yeah, closed posture. Could be insecurity, maybe feeling defensive, not really engaged. Leaning in usually means interest. Leaning back, maybe they want some space, not so into it. And then there's mirroring.
Oh, I've heard of that.
That's when people subconsciously start copying each other's posture, movements. It's a sign of connection, building rapport.
I've definitely noticed that, like when you really click with someone.
Yeah, it happens naturally. Okay, so next, gestures, hands, arms. How do those play into this whole body language thing?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. Like, what about open palms?
Well, those are usually linked to honesty, sincerity, like, hey, I'm open, nothing to hide. Clenched fists, though, that's more tension, anger, ready to fight.
Makes sense. What about pointing?
Pointing can be used to emphasize, but it can also be seen as aggressive, even accusing, and then self-touching.
Like what?
Touching the face, neck, hair. It's often a way to self-soothe when we're anxious, uncomfortable. There's also a distinction between illustrators, those gestures that go along with our words, and adapters.
Adapters.
Those are the unconscious movements, like fidgeting, adjusting clothes. Those can signal underlying nervousness, maybe even that something's not quite right,
So, like, if someone's fidgeting a lot, that could be a red flag.
It could be.
Huh.
All right, last but not least, personal space. Like, how close someone stands to you.
Yeah, we all have that bubble.
Proxemics is the fancy term. And there are actually different zones of personal space, from intimate, like super close, to social, more for acquaintances. So if someone's standing closer than what feels comfortable for your relationship, it could mean they're trying to dominate or be aggressive, or even that they're attracted to you,
Interesting. And if they're way far away?
Could be discomfort, maybe they're just aloof or don't trust you. And of course, cultural norms play a huge role in all this.
Right. So it's like all these different levels of meaning just in how we position ourselves.
Exactly. Oh, and we can't forget about the way we speak, too. The tone, speed, volume, that's all part of body language, too, even though technically it's called paralanguage.
Right, like a shaky voice.
Could mean fear, nervousness, loud, forceful tone, anger, trying to take charge. Slow, deliberate way of speaking might show thoughtfulness, but also could be a stall tactic if someone's lying, you know? And changes in pitch, how our voice goes up and down, that can reveal a lot about our emotions, too.
It's amazing how many layers there are to communication.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see it's not about taking one gesture and saying, this means that.
No, absolutely not. Context is everything.
Right. So like arms crossed, maybe they're just cold.
Exactly. You got to look at the whole situation, what's normal for that person, and are there other cues that match up?
It's not like a body language dictionary.
Nope. And then you've got cultural norms, too. What's polite in one place might be rude somewhere else. Like in some East Asian cultures, not making direct eye contact is a sign of respect. But in the West, it can come off as shifty, you know?
Yeah, good point. So you have to know who you're dealing with culturally.
Very important. And it's super helpful to get a sense of someone's baseline behavior. Like, how do they usually sit? How much eye contact do they make? Once you know that, you can spot the changes, the things that might signal a shift in their mood, their intentions. And going back to what we said before, looking for clusters of cues, right? Several things that point in the same direction.
Okay.
It's way more reliable than just one gesture by itself.
Okay, so it's about patterns, context, and cultural background. Now let's talk about specific emotions. Like, what does happiness look like in terms of body language?
So happiness, the main thing, is going to be that genuine smile, the Duchenne smile with the eyes involved. Usually relaxed posture, open gestures, kind of an upbeat vibe overall. But if the smile seems forced or their eyes aren't in it, could be they're hiding something else.
Okay. What about sadness?
Sadness often shows up as slumped shoulders, mouth turned down, movements are slower, less eye contact, their gaze might be down, and sometimes the eyebrows kind of pull together in the middle.
What about when someone's angry?
Anger is usually pretty obvious. Tense jaw, narrowed eyes, that furrowed brow we talked about, maybe even a flushed face. Their posture might stiffen up, gestures are sharp, sudden pointing, fists clenched, and their voice often gets louder, harsher.
Fear. That seems like it would have some strong body language too.
Oh, yeah. Wide eyes, eyebrows raised, mouth open, maybe even gasping for air. They might freeze up or try to back away. Rapid breathing, pale skin, those are all signs of fear.
And disgust. What does that look like?
Think about smelling something awful. That wrinkled nose, eyes squinted, upper lip raised, those are the classic disgust expressions. Might even turn their head away, like they're trying to get away from whatever's disgusting them.
And contempt. That's a little more subtle, right?
It is. Contempt is often shown by a kind of one-sided smirk, just one corner of the mouth lifting. Eyes might narrow a bit, and they might turn their head away slightly, like they think they're better than you.
Last one, surprise. That seems like a quick one.
Yeah, surprise is super short-lived. Eyebrows up, eyes wide, mouth open, but it usually only lasts a few seconds before it changes into something else, depending on what caused the surprise.
Okay, that's really helpful, breaking down each emotion like that. Now let's talk about lying. Can you really tell if someone's lying just by their body language?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, it's more complicated than a lot of people think. There's no one guaranteed tell, like Pinocchio's nose.
Right, so not everyone who avoids eye contact is lying.
Exactly. And just being fidgety doesn't mean someone's dishonest. Nervousness can come from all sorts of things.
So how can you tell? What should you look for?
The biggest clues usually involve a disconnect between what someone's saying and what their body's doing. Like maybe they say they're happy, but there's a flicker of sadness in their face, a micro expression.
Gotcha. So it's about looking for those mismatches.
Yeah. Also, watch out for overcompensating, like trying too hard to appear honest by staring you down or being super still. Hesitations in their speech, sudden changes in posture, a lot of self-touching those can all be signs that someone's uncomfortable with the truth. And do their gestures, their facial expressions match what they're saying? Like if they're describing something sad, but their tone is cheerful and they're relaxed, something might be off.
So again, it's about those inconsistencies more than any one specific gesture.
Exactly. And it's super important to remember that what's considered deceptive in one culture might be totally normal in another. So you always have to take that into account.
Right. Can't just assume everyone follows the same rules.
No.
So we've covered what to look for. What about actually getting better at this? Are there exercises people can do?
Totally. Like anything, practice makes perfect. One great tip, start paying attention to the people you see regularly. Get a sense of their baseline, like how do they usually stand, what are their typical gestures, all that. Then, if something changes, you'll notice.
Become a people watcher.
Basically, yeah, go to a park, a cafe, whatever, and just observe people. Try to figure out their emotions, their relationships based on their body language.
Interesting. What else?
Try mirroring someone subtly when you're talking to them.
Oh, like we talked about earlier.
Yep, helps build rapport, but also makes you more aware of those cues. And ask calibration questions.
Calibration questions.
Questions where you already know the answer. That way, you can see how someone acts when they have no reason to lie. Gives you a benchmark for their truthful behavior. You can even record yourself during conversations. You might be surprised what you notice.
Like things you're doing that you didn't even realize.
Exactly. And lastly, try watching a show or movie with the sound off. Just focus on the body language, see if you can guess what's going on. Then turn the sound back on and see how well you did.
Cool. So now switching gears a bit, how does knowing all this actually help us in real life?
Well, in relationships, it can make you more empathetic. You'll start to pick up on unspoken needs, see when someone's upset, even if they don't say it.
That's huge.
At work, it can boost your communication skills. You'll be able to tell if your audience is engaged or if they're tuning you out.
And you said negotiations too.
Oh, yeah. It can be really helpful in negotiations. You can get a sense of someone's true position, see if they're bluffing. And just in general, you start to understand social dynamics better. Who's in charge, who's following, who's interested, who's not.
Makes sense. So basically, it makes you more emotionally intelligent. Now, what about the science behind all this? We touched on it briefly earlier, but what's actually happening in our brains when we process body language?
So there are these things called mirror neurons, right? And they fire not just when we do something, but when we see someone else doing it.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like our brain is creating a simulation so we can kind of feel what they're feeling. That's a big part how we understand nonverbal cues. And then there's the amygdala, that part of the brain that deals with emotions. It's super sensitive to body language, and it can process those signals even before we're consciously aware of them.
So that's where those gut feelings come from.
Could be, yeah. And research has even shown that different parts of the brain specialize in reading different aspects of body language. It's crazy complex.
Okay, so now that we're getting the hang of this, are there any common mistakes we should watch out for?
Oh, definitely. One big one is overanalyzing. Like, not every little movement means something major. Don't read too much into every twitch and fidget. And confirmation bias is another danger.
Confirmation bias.
It's when you look for evidence that supports what you already believe, and you ignore the stuff that contradicts it. You gotta stay objective when you're reading body language. And don't forget that words still matter. Body language gives you context, nuance, but it doesn't replace what people actually say.
Good point. So basically, don't jump to conclusions and don't ignore the verbal side of things.
Exactly. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, there are even more subtle cues you can start to pick up on.
Oh, like what?
Well, like which way someone's feet are pointed. That can often show you where they really want to go, even if their body's facing you. Breathing patterns, too shallow, fast breaths, probably anxious. Slow, deep breaths, more relaxed. Look for changes in skin tone, like blushing. That can be embarrassment or anger. Even little things, like someone constantly adjusting their collar, might mean they're uncomfortable, maybe not being totally truthful. And handshakes.
Oh yeah, those are important.
A firm handshake, that's usually confidence. Limp handshake, maybe insecurity. There's a whole world of meaning there too.
Okay, so putting it all together, can you give me an example, like a real life situation where all this comes into play?
Sure. Imagine you're in a meeting, right? And your colleague's presenting a new idea. They seem confident, good eye contact, all that. But they keep touching their neck, shifting their weight. Their smile doesn't quite reach their eyes, and their feet are pointed towards the door. And when you ask them a tough question, their voice gets higher. They start saying, and a lot.
I see.
Now, any one of those things on its own might not mean much, but taken together, it paints a different picture.
Yeah, like they're not as confident as they're trying to appear.
Right. They're nervous, maybe not sure about their own idea, and probably just want to get out of there. So by looking at the whole package, you get a much better understanding of what's really going on.
That's such a good example. So as we wrap up this deep dive into body language, what's the most important thing you want people to remember?
I think the main takeaway is that understanding body language, it's a skill anyone can learn. It's not just about memorizing a bunch of gestures, though. It's about paying attention, practicing, considering the whole context.
And it makes you a better communicator, right? More in tune with people.
Absolutely. So for anyone who wants to start applying this, where should they begin?
Yeah, what's a good first step?
Just pick one or two things to focus on, like facial expressions or posture. Start observing those in your everyday interactions. The more you do it, the more natural it'll become.
Small steps.
Yep.
And the payoff.
You start to see beyond the words, you know? You get those deeper insights into what people are really thinking and feeling. And that can transform your relationships, your work, everything.
Wow, that's powerful. So as you go about your day, think about all the ways you communicated without even saying a word. And maybe the messages you might have missed. What will you see differently now?
That's a great question to ponder.
Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.